Right.
David Brooks wrote a column in the New York Times last year when Amy Chua wrote that Tiger Mom book. Remember that?
Which I read, yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
So he, you know, and she really denigrated the value of camp and sleepovers and a whole variety of things that, you know, for many of the parents in Sharon are sort of hallmarks of childhood,
sure.
right? And David Brooks pointed out that the truth is there is no more cognitively demanding, critical thinking, sort of demanding situation than a fifth grade girl going to a sleepover with 6 friends and sort of figuring it all out, right? She's trying to figure out who she is, who she wants to be.
Right.
She's trying to get along. She's trying to read the emotional state of everyone involved. This is actually complicated stuff.
Right.
And if we insulate our kids from those experiences and rather, you know, say, okay, we're just going to do math tutoring and we're just going to teach Chinese, and these things have value. I don't mean to denigrate them, but you know, the truth is these higher order applied skills can really be learned in a variety of settings, right? Including something as sort of traditional as playtime.
Right. Right. I think that the freedom, too, that we, it's not that we're afraid to give our kids freedom. I think that what we're afraid to do is not provide them with enough substance, enough content. And I think that's the motivating drive of parents. I want to make sure that my child is engaged. But then the question is, when your child has this open time, this free time, are they able to use that time productively? And I think a lot of us notice that our kids are bugging them a lot of the time when they don't have something to do. And I see moms trying to program their kids for activities because they don't want to get the hassle of their kids saying, well, what's next? Who's coming over? What do we get? And I think that that's kind of a little bit of where you're coming from here. There's a sense that our children don't have this natural curiosity that they then take into an independent project, or working through something with a friend, or having some long-term goal that they've kind of got in their head that they want to pursue that's for themselves, It's something that comes from the inside of them,
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I think parents struggle. In a sense, we're lost because we get all of these mixed messages. And we do feel like we want every hour of our child's day to somehow be building them up, but we often don't recognize that growth occurs in situations that might really be surprising to us, right? Like summer camp, for instance, right?
Right. And also, you mentioned this 5th grade sleepover, and I think that there'll be some folks in the audience that think, oh, gee, this is going to be a disaster for my kid, or something that is negative is going to happen in that situation, and they're going to stumble a bit, and I want to try and protect them from it. But the truth is that, maybe this is too pat to say, but very often when you do provide an obstacle, when you do give somebody some conflict, obviously, working through that means that there is going to be some discomfort, there's going to be some pain, there's going to be challenge associated with that. We're not trying to soft soap anybody. This is hard stuff. But by not allowing the child to work through it and get to the other side and then look back on it and go, that was a little painful, a little fraught with difficulty, but when I came out on the other end, I understand something now that's different. So the next time you have the difficulty or the conflict, you don't recognize it as being a mistake or something wrong with you. It's just part of a process that you have to go through in order to get to that other side.
Hey, absolutely true. And what you are building, the muscle that you are building, the competency that you're establishing is incredibly important and goes right to the heart of these skills, right? There is a critical thinking and problem solving. There is an emotional and social intelligence piece that is being built up and produces what we call resilience in children. Right? Now, look, in the world that we live in, what is more important than resilience? Right? And as parents, we so often do want to bubble wrap our kids. We want to take the pain away. And I'm the parent of a 5, almost 6-year-old, and I absolutely understand the desire to do that. But it's really from a developmental perspective, it's really not doing a service for our kids. When we train our staff at our camps, we train them to be the safety net. We train them to keep our kids in an emotionally and physically safe environment. Right. But we do not tell them to solve problems, each and every problem that comes up for our kids, right. because that would be a tremendous disservice, right. Right? Right. We teach them how to coach our kids to solve their own problems, right. Right? And one of the things that I say to parents, and I'm very clear about it, is, you know, in our camp world, we are not in the fun business, yeah. Okay? Camp is fun. And the kids are having fun almost all of the time. Right. But truthfully, some of the greatest moments, especially in overnight camp, some of the greatest moments, the moments that produce the most positive growth for kids, are the least fun. Yeah. Right? Are the moments when they just lost a game and feel terrible. Right. Right? Or just struck out yeah. at a critical moment. Right? Right? So what we're trying to do is to create a community in our camps where that kid will then be enveloped in the love and support of his counselors and fellow teammates, right. and will help to lift him back up again or her back up again. Right. Right? They will try, they will fail, they will try again. Right. Right? Right. Because that's really what life is. Right.
One thing that you're getting at here, which I really want to bring up, is this value of practice, effort, determination, you know, having a goal, and the value of work and the pleasure in work. We are a privileged society by any measure, and Sharon, for the most part, really can boast that we are people of privilege, many of us. And the fact that we live in the country we live in and the place that we live in, that's the very beginning. But many of us are very privileged folks, and our children will grow up to be. And I'm constantly trying to impose on my children this understanding that with that privilege comes responsibility. You are meant to take responsibility for your world, for your community, not just your family, but your friends, your community. You're meant to notice and recognize when things need to be fixed or changed or improved. And you are really in the position of saying, look, we together need to do this. We need to take that on. So teaching kids, as you've been saying at camp, the value of an experience where a group gets together and solves, even if it's something like a baseball game, solves a problem, creates a change, makes something better, is something that then becomes, you're infected by that. You're driven to do that again. And I think that's the other thing. Give kids the tools to recognize that when it's difficult or when there's problems or issues, I bring my wisdom together, I bring my peeps together, we solve it and go forward, and that's a high. That's something that I want to recreate in my life. So looking at challenges as something that's exciting as opposed to, well, I can't do that. I can't take that on because it's going to be hard or difficult.
I can't take that risk. And if you have children who avoid risk, then how can they possibly achieve? Right. How can they possibly recover when they hit a bump right. or a wall? Right. I mean, and as parents, we have hit those bumps and walls. Right. And as parents, we cannot remove them from the trajectory of the lives of our children. Right. What we need to do is to try to prepare them, right? Yes. And build them up as much as possible. And you know, what you just said before, you also identified a couple of other 21st century skills, right? So sort of rounding out, you've got critical thinking and problem solving and ethics and social responsibility. You've also got leadership, yeah. Okay? Now, leadership is a tremendously important skill, okay? Applied skill, tremendously important. But where is the leadership class that exists right. at school? Now, that is not to say there aren't leadership opportunities, but what you end up with, and I'm sure, Veronica, you were one of them, you were one of those kids, and I was, okay? I'm a former student council president sitting in front of you, right?
I would have thought so, right?
Okay, so those opportunities exist, and exist through scouting and a variety of other places, right. But what often happens is this is sort of a cream rising to the top. Right. The kids who do this are the kids who are most ready for it, right? And those are the kids, right? They become leaders. So what happens to this skill for the other 75% of kids, right? When employers are telling us leadership right here 81.8% are identifying this as very important, critically important, and maybe not the thing that actually gets you your job. Maybe your transcript gets you your first job and your ability to interview well. But how well you're going to do and whether they're going to want to promote you, right? Or whether you are going to be able to say, you know what, I don't love this career. I want to make a change. I want to start my own business. I want to innovate. I want to create. You need to have been exposed to leadership and leadership training. And again, what we're sort of looking at is, okay, what do the schools have time to do? And I know Sharon is embedding many of these things in the curricula in schools, but I also know, and I'm working, you know, on the education task force right now that's sort of working on a 5-year strategic plan for the school system. So I'm listening, I'm learning a great deal. And I know we are squeezed for time. Squeezed for time, right? This the MCAS mandates, you know, leave us with increasingly little time for these higher order skills for everyone.
I'm glad you mentioned the task force, because what I'd love to be able to do is talk further about this topic with you, and maybe under that umbrella of giving us an update on the task force, because I know that that's something that you're going to be involved in, and others. It's been a fascinating topic. I know we could talk for a long time, and I wish we had more time. I want to end by thanking you so much for the work you've done in Sharon, for the beautiful camp that you've created for us here in our community, which I know a lot of our children and families are going to take advantage of in many, many years to come, and your wisdom and good work. So thank you so much, Scott, for coming today, and please come again.
Thanks so much for inviting me.